Right. We say good morning to Tim Clancy. Tim, good morning to you. How are you?
How are things, man?
Pretty good. How are things with you guys at the minute? It's been a really brilliant start to the season in many respects, and yet I'd say you're kind of pissed off you don't even have more points on the board given the quality of some of the performances.
Yeah, look, I think we probably let a few points go in the home game against Sligo, possibly against Galway as well, but I think we're probably lucky to get our Turner's Cross on Friday night with just a point against Drogheda. So, look, they even themselves out, but performance-wise, I think we're really happy in most of the games, and getting a point away at Shelbourne and Tolka Park 2 weeks ago before the international break was a good result as well. So we're happy enough as a start to the season.
How has the season gone so far in terms of what you thought it was going to be like? Have there been bits that surprised you in terms of even the quality of your own performances at stages along the way, or are you about level where you thought you would be?
Look, I think from looking in from last season, obviously we were in the first division, but you keep in mind the Premier Division, you've seen it was very competitive, and it's probably even more so this year. I think every game, you turn up at every game and you go in after. I heard other managers, I think Duffer said it as well, you check the results after games on a Friday night and you don't know what to expect. You've no idea what the results are going to be and who's going to beat who. And look, we're coming to, I suppose, the end of the first round of games, and it's still very, very tight throughout the whole league. One result or two results in a row could catapult you up the table or down the table. So, yeah, it's been brilliant. Obviously, the media attention, the buzz around the league, it's been brilliant to be a part of.
Hiya, Tim. How's Sean Maguire getting on?
Yeah, look, Sean, he came off against Waterford with a hamstring issue. Not ideal. Himself and Craig Bulger came off in that game, and we only got Cathal O'Sullivan back this week from injury from the first day of the season. So Malik Dricksteel's out and a couple of other first team players. So look, we went with a tight squad, and obviously you want to try and avoid injuries to your main players. And Shawnee is our number one player at the club. So to lose him for a good few weeks was a bit disappointing. But he's recovering well, and we're hoping to get him back now in the next lot of weeks.
Yeah, I was planning to ask about Cathal O'Sullivan later in the chat, but since you mentioned him there, just how exciting of a prospect is O'Sullivan? Like, so young, but been given a fairly prominent shirt number by yourselves, wearing number 11, came on against Drogheda. I know he lost possession for the goal, but there's a huge amount of excitement around him in Cork and beyond. What kind of a talent are you talking about here, Tim?
Look, he's a special kid. He's a really, really good player. I think physically he's very good. He's not the tallest, but he's very strong and he's powerful and he's explosive over a few yards. But technically he's one that it's not even just our own fans will get excited about. Sorry, it'll be opposition fans as well when they see him play. Look, he's a really, really talented player. He's obviously had a serious injury a few years back at 16, which was probably why there wasn't a lot of attention on him maybe, but look, he's made up for that last season, and I think for as long as we have him this season, I think it's going to be he's going to be brilliant for the league to see.
I was struck by how transparent you are after the Drogheda game on Friday, speaking on television about how disappointed you were at the performance, and I think it was rightly so, because Rory Keaton had that chance at the start of the game where he kind of scuffed his shot in the left foot, but I counted, I think there was about 4 different times Drogheda could have scored in the first 8 minutes and they had that disallowed goal. But then you get back into the side with the penalty, and I could never see a conclusive view of that, whether that was a handball or not, but it looked like it from the Drogheda reaction that it might have been. But I guess like the old cliche goes there, and it is true, is that like it's a sign of a good team if you're getting something from a game where you don't play well. So was there a bittersweet nature to your instant reaction on Friday night from what happened?
No, there was. Look, we're very pragmatic. We want to be honest. We're not going to paint something that's not there. I think it's probably the poorest we played this season. Drogheda had a lot of chances, and I think their expected goals was very high. But I think about 4 or 5 occasions in the game, they had maybe 3 or 4 chances in the space of 5 seconds. So it probably paints a picture that they were knocking the door down the whole game. I think you said it there, the first 8 minutes they had a couple of goal-mouth scrambles where there's blocks and the keeper makes a save and maybe one goes past the post, and it looks like they're dominating the whole game. Drogheda are very, very efficient and effective in how they play. And look, you look at the grand scheme of things, you look at the stats of the game, we didn't create enough chances, but we had 67, nearly 7% of the possession. It's just that we didn't do enough with it. Whereas Drogheda had, we were very effective with the 33% that they had. So disappointing in regards to the chances we probably coughed up, and it was maybe a bit of old school defending, not dealing with balls into the box and creating panic. And I think we lacked a little bit of composure then to try and put your foot in the ball and play through lines and have the composure to go out the opposite side where the space was. But yeah, look, we're not going to dress it up. It's live on telly. Enough people could watch it. So there's no point me coming out afterwards saying it was a brilliant performance when it wasn't.
I know that's true, but plenty of managers pretend that's the case, you know. So that's why it was kind of refreshing to see it. I love watching Alex Nolan on the ball. There's something about it's like a kind of traditional winger in the sense that he's not necessarily blistering pace, but he's always in control of what he's doing, which I think the biggest case in point of that assessment would be the goal against Waterford, which was a ridiculous angle to score from. Like, he got him in from Pats, so good season last year there too. Does a type of player like that, Tim, does he breed confidence into his teammates because he himself is so confident, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think so. Look, on Friday I thought Alex was excellent for large periods of the game as well, but maybe just the final ball wasn't there. And that's probably something, he's only a young lad as well, so he has to get that into his game. When he does get into them positions and it's not working, maybe that's when you bring someone else in, or just put percentage balls into areas. But he does, he's a ball carrier. He's someone that can create something out of nothing. We've got Malik Drickstein injured at the minute, who's a similar type of player. You've Cathal O'Sullivan, who's similar. You have Kit Nelson, who probably doesn't look as flashy on the eye, but he's excellent in tight areas and he's good at going past players. So when you have a team with 3, 4, 5 of them options, I think it gives you confidence that one of them will have a moment where it can create something. And like you said, Alex is down in Waterford after 7 minutes or so, and he chopped out and then back in and then hit the ball into the roof of net from a tight angle. When you have players in your team that can do stuff like that, it's always a positive.
Can I ask you a little bit about the evolution of your own philosophy on the game and the way that you want your teams to play? You were a very young man when you became a manager, 32, 33, and you obviously are not fully formed when you step into management, and yet I suspect you've been thinking about it for quite a long time. Like, there were various stages of your career where you were out injured and must have begin thinking about, actually, I do want to be a manager. So how has your thoughts on the game kind of changed over that period?
I think it's similar to how I looked at when I played. The older I got, the more I want to help the younger players. Look, I've been at clubs where the senior players at clubs have tried to hinder or block younger players coming through. And I just felt that if you're at that stage where you're scrapping it out with a 17, 18-year-old, it's time to retire. Like, so just help them rather than hinder them. And I see that as a manager as well. I think where we are in the football and ladder in the League of Ireland, it's still very much it's a stage for young players to really launch their career. Yes, we are improving in regards to the industry we're creating over here and the product that we are producing. But a lot of the young players still want to aim to get to England or beyond. So my sort of philosophy is if you can get players that do that and create an environment where they can improve and catch the eye, I think with the right senior players around them, I think then it's a good catalyst for success in this league. And again, look, success can be seen as multiple things. It can be clubs selling players and getting money back in. It can be seen winning league titles in this country. And I think last season Shelbourne probably were the exemption from the norm in regards to they didn't have the biggest budget. They didn't have the star players, and Duffer created something there that's why it made it so special. But the majority of times in every league, the league winners are normally the highest payers. So if you're not going to have the biggest budget, you have to be a bit more creative in how you can get excitement and quality on the pitch.
In like, when I listen to you saying that, I think about the career that you had where you did see loads of different types of football and loads of different parts of the football pyramid in England and Scotland and in Ireland before you went as well. So you've got an incredible level of experience of what success might mean at different stages. And does that then allow you to understand what the individual players' motivations are so that you can get something, you can make them and bind them as a group a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think look, I dropped out of football league when I was at Millwall. I was a reserve team player and I went non-league for 2 years, and the makeup of the team was very much maybe 8, 9, 10 players like myself who took a hit and dropped down to try and go again. And look, I think we had lads that went on to Bournemouth, Huddersfield, Watford, Southend. There was plenty of players that left, I think, from that non-league team, and it was a similar sort of situation. When you go to Scotland, when you're in any club in England, there's one thing that really excites the fans, and that's when it's a young homegrown player comes through and they're making their debut at 17, 18 or whatever it is, and they excite the fans and they do something that's positive and straight. Look, it's the same in this league. Every League of Ireland club's the same, and we're very sort of proud of any young players that come through the league, and it's something that we do drum about quite a lot. Like we look at James McLean and we say he's one of ours. Like he's came through the League of Ireland system, and you go through multiple players like Seamus Coleman, whoever else, and we take great pride in that. So to be able to get the next sort of batch of them young players to come through with Brexit coming in, I think that's helped it massively, because we're getting that 16 to 18 now where they're now affecting the first teams over here. Look, they're getting younger. You see Mason and you see Cathal O'Sullivans and you see Michael Noonans and that are doing it at a really young age. But no, look, from my point of view is I think the balance has to be right. You have to get they have to be good enough to play for starters, but then it's getting the right ones around them. And look, we're going to be realistic. We're not going to win the Premier Division with a youth team out on the pitch, but if you can get 3 or 4 players that are very exciting, and then you have the likes of Shawnee Maguire and Keats and Greg Bulger and Sean Murray and some of the older players in the squad that help them, it gives us a better chance of being successful and finishing higher up the table.
You know, that pride you were talking about, especially with the young players, developing them, is pride for you ultimately like if you were to sell those promising young players to clubs, say in the UK? Or I guess like the obvious route would be, your biggest pride would be keeping them at Cork City for as long as possible. You know, that's actually the goal, because look, we had that tension between Hamer Halgrimsson and Stephen Bradley in the last international break about those comments that may or may not have been misinterpreted. But I suppose it's always going to be a source of tension in the League of Ireland, isn't it, when there's a really talented young player about where that player's destination ends up?
Yeah. Look, I'm in a different position than Stephen is. Brad's has won 4 league titles. He's getting to the knockout stage of European competitions. He's breaking ground for football in this country for the league. We're not there yet. I'd even look, as much as I'd love the likes of Cathal O'Sullivan or Jade Newman, who went to Benfica last year, or Mark O'Mahony a few years ago, Franco Uma, you can list the whole lot of them that have left Cork City's academy. I'd love them all to be at Cork City, but for the likes of Cathal and that, I'd even say our fans would feel disappointed if he didn't get a move. Yes, we want him here, but they see how good he is, and I'd say they want to see how far he can go and how high he can go. Ideally, we want to try and get him into the first team, make a big impact, and start getting, like, the Mason Melia transfer is really giving us a massive lift where we can start commanding decent fees for players now that can actually make a big difference to football in this country.
Like you touched on there, it's a very young side. You already have plenty of challenges in the Premier Division. An additional one must be you're a victim of geography, because the only away trip that's handy for you is Waterford. So you're on the road an awful lot.
Sorry, careful now, Tim. Colm, as you can hear from his voice, is from Cork, so just be careful how you answer this one. A victim of geography. Go on. Sorry, you're
up and down,
leading the witness here.
You're up and down to Dublin several times a season. You're out west, and further beyond in the east as well, up north. Do you have to put a lot of effort into the travel and what goes into it, and not just the actual logistics of getting there, but sources of entertainment and focus for your players?
No, look, we also had the Shamrock Rovers fixture on Sunday, and they got called off with the rain. But we trained on Friday. I jumped in the car straight after training with my coaching staff, and we drove to Derry. They were playing Bows, so we drove all the way up, watched the game, left there 10 o'clock at night, and drove straight back to Cork for 10 o'clock the next morning. So we were playing Bows on the Friday. We won the game. It's the only one we've won this season, so I might start doing that more often. But, no, look, it's a part of it. I'm not going to complain about the travelling. I'm managing one of the biggest clubs in the country. The fan base is incredible. It's an absolute privilege and an honour to be managing Cork City. And look, it's the People's Republic of Cork, you know yourself. So it is very much a community based where everybody rows in behind each other, and they do see anybody from outside Cork as a direct challenge to them. And again, it's probably easier this season with the Dublin trips. It's not a bad road now. It's not the worst in the world to be travelling up to. Derry obviously be playing out Friday night, so we leave after training tomorrow and stay in Letterkenny. And back down the road, we'll adjust training the weekend because the lads probably won't get back till 5 a.m, so they'll do their own recovery and then off on Sunday. But it can be difficult where a lot of games are that decent journey. But look, it's a good squad, it's a good group of players, and so far when you get good results, them journeys seem a little bit shorter.
Tim, you talked about dropping out of the league to get back. You were happy to take your first job in the first division, and you took over Cork when they were in the first division. It can't have been easy to recover from a situation where you're in a job where you think you're ready to go, and then you do have a professional setback. And yet, I think the quality of performances that your team put in last year are obviously testimony to the bond that you had, and then you've strengthened the squad again this year. So that whole notion of sometimes taking a step sidewards or what might look like a step backwards in your career is something that you've embraced fully.
Yeah, look, it's football. It's football management, particularly is look, players sign 3-year deals and whatnot, and a lot of the time they'll see them out. They might be sent out on loan, but they're still at their parent club. Where if a manager signs a 3-year deal and has a bad 6 weeks, he's gone. Like, so it's a part of the game where you have to be realistic that ideally you'd want to have somewhere that's right on your doorstep and everything's rosy and whatever else. But it's an industry where there's 20 jobs in league football in Ireland, and you have to go and travel for that side of it. As a player, I moved, I think my eldest daughter had 4 different primary schools, so it was something that we were very used to. And then we consciously made a decision then when I left Hibs that the wife was going to set up house where we're going to be for the rest of our life, and the kids weren't moving school anymore, so I went back to Scotland on my own, and then obviously came back to the League of Ireland, played a few seasons, and I imagine it'd be the same with management. If I was to go anywhere, I'd be certainly wouldn't be up sticks with the whole family again. I've sort of passed that now at this stage.
Yeah, well, look, we wish you the very best of luck for the rest of the season. Thanks so much for making the time to talk to us this morning, Tim.
No, guys, thanks a million for having us on.
Cheers. It's I think one of those football journeys that is really interesting. It's quite we maybe could have got into. It's quite a couple of big goals against Celtic at various stages.
Oh, yeah. Next time says you. They've such a talented squad there, and just this kind of openness to speak with us there, and the way he speaks before and after games. And I commented on this recently. It was like, I think all 10 managers in the Premier Division are captivating. All of them. They're doing wonders for the league in that regard. Like, there's loads of reasons why the League of Ireland has grown in popularity of recent years. We had Mark Scanlon talked about this, but I actually really fundamentally believe it's a lot to do with the managers too. That each and every one of them are good talkers and very honest about the pros and cons of the league.
Yeah.
The shortcomings and the excitement levels and the reason it's popular and the reason we're still way behind keeping the players like Cathal O'Sullivan in the country. And that's really important. Really important to get the casual person in.
Yeah, I think the opposite end of the bit about the kids coming through is actually being able to attract Seanie Maguire back to come, and it's not like he's not capable of influencing games. He totally is. I think like Pádraig Amon coming back and being as good as he is at that stage of his career, like there is a bit here where you start to get players coming back and they're able to improve the quality of the league, and we're not just signing players who failed. And I think that, you know, you there's a lot of credibility when you can sign somebody, when you can help nourish a career and get them to go away, and you can bring somebody back and you blend those. That's like a full understanding of the football pyramid.
You know, it would be an amazing trend and team if players of renown finish their career back in Ireland if they started there. But in the cases you mentioned, like Sean Maguire was at a low ebb professionally and came back to where he was loved, as one of the most favoured Cork City strikers in the club's history. Goes back to where he's wanted, because he needed that for a while as well. Like Damien Delaney finished up at Cork City, and that didn't actually go too well for Damien, and it was not long after he was captaining Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final. But it would be great if it was a destination, I'm not going to say Saudis, but not like the MLS, or you have a great player who finishes their career at a lower level in a different country altogether and then finishes up. It would be class if they came back to help out. But there's always personal reasons why players do that rather than a team or a trend of the league.
Yeah.
The league's never going to be in that position, I don't think.
Well,
to be able to provide that for players. Gone are the days of in the 1970s when players came here and got a lovely wedge for themselves.
Yeah, for 4 or 5 games maybe.
Yeah.
But I think Greg Cunningham is another example of somebody coming back and being able to have an impact.